So first of all, hi everyone. My name is Ruben. I am a co-founder here at Prototype, together with my lovely partners Philip and Valentin back there. Actually, we founded this as a team of development, design, and me as a concept guy. So I'm right now guiding you guys through a small case study we did here. And with all technical detail questions, I will always say, hey, Valentin, you have to answer this. So this direction here, and creation part is more of mine. So what we wanted to show you today is a nice case study from Ionic we did, where we at first developed a native iOS and Android app for a client, and then in a later development phase brought this to the web as a progressive web app, and the experience we had with this. So just short history, we are 5 years old, and we have currently built around 26 Ionic apps. So we started with Lesara. You probably know them. They are not there anymore, but we started with those guys. Went to Amorelie. This app is still with us. We are developing this on a yearly base, and also doing stuff for the BMG app is here, and Music Bash, and those are the bigger clients. And where's the Autobahn? Oh, currently the Autobahn app is also from our house. This is for a big reform that is coming up, and yeah, we're proudly developing solely Ionic apps here with our lovely team. So okay, what I want to show you today is an app. It's called Yuvedo, and they pitch themselves as a free latex for Parkinson's. So Parkinson's is a disease, neuro disease, which is not curable, I think is the word, but you can work on your symptoms. So within this app, you will find trainings that will help you have less symptoms during the day and live better days. And there was a founder team. They themselves, or two of their founders, actually had or have Parkinson's, and they started working on these trainings, and they wanted to give this to the world. It is supported by the AOK, so it's a German Gesundheitskasse health insurance, yeah. And yeah, they are now released. And as I said, I want to tell you a little bit about the process that we're building this app. So just a small overview of the features we were working on. So on the one hand, you have those courses. They are combinations of mostly high efficient training, like doing cycling or doing sports, and then also doing meditation. So it's working on your body or getting it really sweaty, just like myself, and then also doing some meditation, so your brain gets more relaxed, let's say. Parkinson patients also have a tendency towards closing themselves from people, so they get very solitary. Thanks. And this is why they wanted to also have this app where you can be anonymous, but also talk to other people who also have this disease, and talk to them how they get along with this. So that was, from the conceptual part, very hard to be anonymous in a team environment, but I think we did a good job here. And so later on, around those courses, we have a chat area where you do one-on-one chat. This was done with real-time WebSockets, and you also work in those groups, as you always start this training as a group that comes together, and you can see, okay, who did this, the whole challenges today, and then you can discuss together or push yourself together to work on your habits from day to day. So Yes, rich, but I'm not following this very good. Sorry for that. And then the third part is actually the statistic or health data integration, let's say, where you track yourself, you track your symptoms on a weekly or even daily basis, and then you can see and compare your symptoms to other people's symptoms if they opt in showing their statistics. And they can even opt in to share their statistics to Yuvedo, so they have a base on what type of trainings really help those users, and they are working with scientists then to think about, okay, what can we do with this data, because there is not as much data for Parkinson's yet. So this is the big feature set here. So for the background, why we chose Ionic, because of course we are pros in Ionic, and here was the combination that they came to us saying, okay, we need something for the web, but we also need this as an app, because they always thought of themselves as being a trainer, a personal thing, so being on smartphones is really interesting here, but they also said, okay, we have Parkinson patients more or less are 55 years, 60 years and above. So they thought, okay, but we also have to do something for the desktop, since old people are not using smartphones. I don't think that this is the case anymore, but this was the idea. And so what we did, that we said, okay, from a conceptual point, because we didn't have anything, we will start with the app, so we can focus, so we can be very sharp in what features to build, and then later on bring this to the web. And that was the strategy from the first day on, and it worked quite well actually, with some parts we come to later. And we also had some project-specific challenges, conceptual-wise and interface-wise, that you have those tremor. Most of people will know that you are. It's kind of hard. They start shaking. So buttons and everything had to be quite big and had to be good readable. Yes. And one thing here also was that they had to be. They had to start very fast, because they already had their funding in the background, and they had to deliver an app or a first stage as soon as possible, and then go to their users and then evaluate and work with this application step by step. So, yeah. Okay, those are the topics. I will now go into detail. If you have questions, the bigger questions, I would say, at the end. But if you just have some right away, just give it a shot and we'll try to manage this. So the deployment phase was actually quite easy. So the stack we are using was Ionic 3, since Ionic 4 was not out yet, and Angular 5. We had a basic deployment. Just upload to folder. This actually second part is then for the web app. So what we found out here is that the deployment to the web is way easier than deploying to native app stores, because what you get out of Ionic is just a file with an index HTML, and you can host it wherever you want, more or less. And so this was actually the hosted area. We are also doing the hosting for them right now. How this will develop in the future, we don't know yet, if they build up their own team. One big thing was that the loading time at first was quite hard. So you go on the PWA, on the web application, and the file size was around 6 megabytes. So it took like 30 seconds to get everything down on your device. And so there we had to invest in features for the web application, actually. Because, as you know, if you download an app from the App Store, you have everything and just loads up. But if you get it from the web, it just has to be done. So, and what we did was we were working with gzip compression. So what you get is a gzip file to your smartphone or to the computer, and then file size gets way smaller, of course. And this worked quite good. And also we did some features around lazy loading, so you only download those area of the application which you currently see. So once you are in a tab or in an area, it just downloads this one, and the other ones then later on, and not the whole app as one. So these were actually things we run into, but we managed to solve. Platform-specific design challenges also we had. So here within the native app, you have those tab navigation, as most of you people probably know. And then we had to think about, okay, how do we solve this on the web environment? Since if you have tab navigation down here, it doesn't feel right, and it's not as easy to navigate through this, even especially if you're on a phone. So if you then like scroll on an app, and then the browser interfaces, they go away and then come back once you tap on it, so it feels really weird. And so the pattern we thought of was that we took this whole area and put it over here, so you have it in a visible site, and then you have the whole area or the whole app down here. Yes, did I talk about everything? Yeah. So this is actually what we were thinking about on this navigation areas. If I'm too fast, you just raise your hand or something, but I think good. And most Ionic, so now it's all about, okay, how much did work from the native application to the web application, and what we really were working with, and we also did for the DKB, that's a German bank, is with the Ion Grid, which is working fairly good. So here also you have, this is also a web application, and the grid just comes in from the Ionic framework. So this was working really good here, and also as you can see, it works here. So the wider the view gets, then you have an automatic grid that works. The Ion slides, what were the Ion slides? Check. The onboarding slides, actually, like you have on the mobile app most of the times, you probably know, they also were within the web application. They don't span all the way, but they like have a maximum width, I think. And this also was working quite good. The alert also was working very good. So if you have an input which is not nice, this also comes from the top end. So wrong input and so on. Of course, the whole push integration is not working as good yet, since browser push is not available on every browser. So we skipped this push and only had this on the native app. What was really a challenge we ran into is the Ion datetime. If you put in a date on iOS and Android, you have like this waltz thing, and this felt really weird on the web since you have this mouse pointer and then this waltz. So there we had to change this to an input of just numeric input, and then this was working really good. So those were minor tweaks we had to do from the interface side. And also Ion select. So this is when you have a pop-up and you have a selection here, and on iOS and Android you say, okay, I want this, and then you say apply. On the web this also feels kind of strange because you click on something and then you just want it to be able to apply. So those were the small details where you could feel or see that the behavior is a little bit different from the mouse control than it is on the touch. But everything else was quite out of the box, I think. Another major topic is because they have payment integration. Of course, on iOS we have the Apple Pay. On Android you have Android Pay. And on the web you have to have another solution. So you have a third one. Here we were working with Stripe, and it was very lit. And it actually worked quite good to have this on the web application here. So it's a combination. They have some free areas, just like most of the time in apps, some freemium model where you have model where you have free areas, or I think it's like 14 days, 20 days, and then you have to go into a payment. And we worked with Stripe. That worked very good with the whole Ionic app. Small anecdote was that we tried to work just like Netflix. So you download the app, and then you have to have a login and a membership to start. And you are not able to say, okay, hey, come to our website and pay here, and then come back. So you have to design this very neatly. And what didn't work in Apple was that on those trainings we have, you always have like 20 people can start one training. So they come into a group. And it says, okay, it's free because there are free seats. So you could go in there. And Apple said, hey, you cannot say it's free because it's not free. So there was a little bit of discussion, just small details here. Of course, Android didn't have that problem, but yeah, this was very nice. And yes, and the Stripe actually didn't work on iOS. I think this is one of the aspects why Apple is making so much money. They don't want to have the iOS, the Stripe integration. So here we again had to do a small change in going to Apple Pay and working with this. There we go. So yes, of course, just like everybody will know that the more platforms we have, the more maintenance and problems you have. Because so. And also here we had some video playback issues. Because they have the trainings are in combination with video tutorials. And here at the end we were working with MP4 streams from Vimeo, and this worked quite good across all three platforms, let's say iOS, Android, and the web. This was the solution here. And yeah, we also had to do a minor tweak, since if you build an iOS and Android app, you always have this versioning. So you have this version number, and you don't have this in the web. So we here built a small, let's say, feature where we put the app info also in the web app, so that we know, okay, which app version is running currently. Since it's all from one code base, we had to have to know what app version is running here. And yeah, surprisingly, Edge was not a problem at all. We thought Microsoft and EA and all those were big issues, but Edge was actually working really good. Didn't have any issues here. So, in summary, would we do it again? Yes, definitely. So we are currently working more or less or not more or less, we're working solely in Ionic more and more. It gets better and better, actually. We're now on Ionic 4. We updated all of our stack, so this will Yuvedo is on Ionic 3 still, yes, and but this will be a next step to bring them also to 4. Yes, and we are very fast. I mean, for the client, it's always hard to explain them how fast we are in feature developing, but with we're working in end-to-end sprints, and we can develop features just like really fast. And the whole chat integration, for example, was not in the app at first, but it was just like we started with the app, did 2 sprints, and then more or less tweaked the whole app around, and then integrated this chat, and this is could also be done in 1 sprint, and then you have it for all platforms. So this is really gets you up to speed, especially in this phase of the product market fit, where you still have to search, okay, how do we build or how do we design this app? How is this the best app for the users? This gets you really fast here. Yes, most of the cross-platforms, just like I said, those details, smaller or bigger details, could be managed fairly easy. And the continuous deployment for web, just like I said, is way easier here than it is for working Cordova. I don't know if you guys have experience with this, but Firebase and the whole push thing is always quite hard here once we're developing the native applications here. And yes, Yeah, and that's the summary also, that it's way more cost efficient for startup phase at the beginning, which is has to deliver on several platforms to go with this way. And actually what you see here is a small advertorial presented by me right now. This is a side product that came out of this and other products. So we had to build something to monitor the servers, and Monitonator we call it. So I think you have small cards here, so check it out. We'd like to get feedback and start working with this. Sorry? Also Ionic. Yeah, of course. All Ionic. Check. That's me with my presentation. Do you have any questions? Yes, please.
You mentioned that the target audience is 55 years or older. How does that happen? I mean, there must be younger people with Parkinson's as well, right?
It is a disease that just comes up in this later age. So there is a minor percentage of young people getting this disease, but it's just a disease. It comes up in a later stage of a human body or something. So it was.
Exercises that were in here?
Yeah.
Are they like recommending how to do things? Because from experience I know that this is quickly getting into the space which is called in German a Medizinprodukt, like a health product. So is this like a product that has to be reviewed by authorities if it's really like exercises, containing exercises are properly rated by doctors, or is it?
Totally. This is a complete legal thing where Yuvedo also says, okay, it is not proven that this will work, and we were working with a legal team which deployed or gave us the text and all those. You have to do, yes. And also from the side of the data we are collecting, we had Gesundheitsdaten, so health data, and we also had to store them quite safely and had to store them in a way that Yuvedo themselves don't get access to all those data quite easily. And it is they say it is a hypothesis for them also, and they want to learn with the community which exercises work, and then get this on a database with scientists to, in the end, hopefully in around 1 year or so, be able to say, okay, yes, this helps, and yes, a doctor says it helps. Yeah.
Do you feel alone developing for Ionic? Because not many people use it compared to React, Angular, and Vue.
Yeah.
So when it comes to Stack Overflow questions and all that kind of stuff, did you feel alone?
I didn't, but did you?
I didn't neither, because we're like a team of quite a few developers. But yeah, especially issues like Google Firebase. It was just like this Monday where a breaking change was released by Google in the Firebase library, and then suddenly no projects were at all anymore. And you're just sitting there and refreshing the GitHub issue, looking at it. So sometimes it's hard, but in general I feel the community is quite responsive. Right, so I don't know. I guess it works out most of the time. I mean, look at it; it's quite a huge community. So, and we also try to contribute. Right, it's open source code. You need to sometimes fix those issues yourself and make it better.
I also wouldn't compare it to Angular or React, because it's more like a framework that is made for building UI. So you should compare it to, I don't know, Bootstrap or Cordova is really the same. Or React Native, those are like runtimes. And Ionic is more like building UI for the web or for mobile.
Yes,
So
okay.
that space, I think, is pretty
maybe not
much
a fair comparison. But the question remains that it's still relatively new for many people. I don't know how big the community is, so that's my worry about Ionic and Stencil is how many people are actually using it. So it's good for me to see that you're having such good success with Ionic. This is what I wanted to ask you. How much pain did you feel in being alone with Ionic? Do you feel like you have a healthy community around it?
I mean, pain is bigger with Cordova actually. Like, I mean, it's bigger community
Cordova is
than
only
Ionic.
pain.
That's like we have a lot of abandoned packages, so that's really sometimes problematic, right? When you want to forfeit and then do some hacky stuff which you are embarrassed to put back. But yeah, for those challenge.
You can also add here, depends maybe what you're using as a framework. If you're going for Ionic and Angular, I mean that's the first citizen for Ionic. Now come in React, but if you would choose maybe Vue, then you would have a little harder time to get through issues and stuff because it's very outdated.
But is React for Ionic before still in beta, or has it been officially approved?
Release candidate. Release candidate.
Release candidate.
Like 1 week ago.
Any other questions? Or yeah.
Did you integrate with any of the health or fitness APIs?
Not yet. Not yet. It's since we're looking at those APIs, what we could do. There is actually a watch for Parkinson patients, but it also was in some sort of beta status, so this would be the first thing to integrate. But everything else is a standardized questionnaire they have. They are also doing with the doctor, and this is integrated. So you have to answer questions here, and you get a question, and then you have a slider where you say, okay, how good do you feel? And there we were thinking about, okay, is it a steps slider or just a range slider without steps? And do you see what you answered last time and so on? But this is the way they are putting in the data, and just like a how do I feel type of thing. Yeah.
It looks like a very huge app. How long will it take for the first version with all these chat things?
6 weeks. No, well, in this case, actually, we did. So what we try to do is we have this 6-week app package where you say, okay, you're going through a workshop and app design process with the design team, and then you have one development sprint where you develop a first app. This app was actually bigger in the first step, so we had 2 development sprints for the first version, but then you can add up, it was around 2.5 months to go to the App Store from 0, actually. So this was hard, and also teaching other people's how to design and focus on less features instead of many features. But yes, this was the first step, and then we added several sprints in a later stage, and to go to the web, and then to have the chat and so on. Yeah. I think he was first. Go. Yeah.
What's the team size for the 6 weeks?
Team size is actually the creation is 2 designers, project manager, and myself in the beginning. And then the developers are also 2 in the sprint, and 1 Valentin most of the time floating around 2 sprint teams which are working on 2 apps parallel. So yeah.
Check. I actually had the same question.
Okay, check.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Quick question, you mentioned Cordoba.
Yeah.
What is your take on capacitor, for instance?
What is our take capacitor, Valentin?
What is our take on capacitor?
Florian.
Maybe love it, but I guess we have to figure out some stuff, especially if you look at push and Firebase. So there was some pain getting it to run, but I already have 2 apps in the App Store, 2 side projects, and what I loved most was the bundle size. Before Cordoba, they had around 25 megabytes, and now they are lower than 5. So I guess we will look at it more deeply, I guess, in the next weeks. So I think it could be something. I mean, it depends heavily on how many native features you need, right? Those apps you have are.
Yeah.
Yes.
You seem to be fond of Firebase. Is it, are there alternatives to Firebase? What do you use Firebase for? The push notifications or more stuff?
The problem, even if you want to use the native push plugin, there has to be the Firebase SDK in at least the Android version, and it escalates very It's like really the Firebase library on the Android native side, right? And that's the issue. So you can't really get around it if you want to receive pushes. And if you use one signal or whatever, you need to.
So Firebase is a must with Ionic if you want to receive push notifications.
Well, with every
Android.
It's like
Android, yes.
Android like native development too.
Yeah.
You can use App Center, which is comparable to Firebase. It has some of the features. It's from Microsoft, but it doesn't have stuff like analytics or so. But it has like push. We did via Firebase, obviously, and Crashlytics, stuff like that. I also saw an App Center screenshot here earlier. I think you're using it too.
Yes.
It's nice.
Yep.
And why have you decided to not use push notifications or provide push notifications for browsers?
Yeah.
As soon as that file is a Linux problem or were there other issues?
So we kind of ruled this out because we couldn't support iOS, and that was kind of the thing where we kind of also said, let's keep it in the app.
Yeah.
Right. Because you would like the user to be in the app first, generally, right?
Check. Okay. Then if you don't have any questions, thanks everyone. And